Questions?
Right
Oh,
there.
come on. Yes, Lauren?
So in this morning's panel with Chairman Hunter, there was a question about searching records from state agencies, and former chief of staff from the AG's office said that they have their panel said they have the power to search for keywords in everyone's emails, for example, instead of going to that person and saying, hey, you have any emails? Instead of on our system, they can actually, just use the technology. Is that something that you think could and should be written into the public records law? Move away from an honor system and towards a more enforcement?
Yeah, it's hard for me to imagine that anyone would dishonor the Public Information Act. And I really say that, I really do. When I was meeting with one of the agency heads this morning, I was appalled at something that had been reported in the media. I mean, it was a good, thank you for bringing it to me, because I was appalled that someone in our state government could think that way, or even think that that was ethical, right? So I think that it's something with technology that we need to consider, certainly. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for being here. My name is Jeff Morgan. I came down just because of you, so thank you.
Where are you from?
Dallas.
Okay.
I got up at 2 o'clock this morning. But it's because of the stuff that you do, and one of the issues I really wanted to talk with you about, I've been to your office, not seen you, but with regard to CPS and also our family courts, we cannot get information. I've gone through the CPS thing, falsely accused, took me a year and a half, and only because another senator got involved. In CPS, we've had 30 years plus of history. Under Governor George Bush, we had these problems. They're still here. I could easily get 24 people just like that to come down. They'd love to talk with you. People that say, I can't believe you're getting to talk with her, I want to be there. What can we do to create transparency in CPS and then maybe as well our family courts?
That was my meeting this morning. So I think it's a fair question. There is, because of the federal court case, I think that the knee-jerk reaction, especially since 2011, I really haven't been involved before then, has been a little bit of hesitancy. I have great hope with our new leader in Commissioner Youth and some of the things that she is working on. It's going to take a while to turn the tide of how that agency operates. We've made the decision to go to community-based care. That is a decision that has been debated over many sessions. And at this point, we're in a transitional period. So I'm just going to talk about the overall operation. Now, getting the information, I share your frustration. There are times, you can ask some of the governor's staff. I've had heart-to-hearts with them and sometimes shouting matches about that agency. I think we're on the heels of moving. I really think that we're close to moving in the right direction. I'll meet with you afterwards about what information you're looking for.
Thank you.
Because I do know that Senator Birdwell had some information that he filed, a bill that he filed that I was really behind both of them. The fiscal note that was put on them were ridiculous. I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars for some of their, clarifying some of their database, and it's really public information kind of stuff. So let's meet right after this. I do have a little time. Questions? Yeah, Phil.
No, I covered Senate this last time around, and sort of in the spirit of what they were saying about the courthouse news service, we were not given nearly as much access in the Senate as we were in the House, up to things including amendments being filed that we weren't able to get access to because of COVID restrictions that kind of carried over. And I'm just wondering, given the sort of the comments that you've given today, whether you'd be willing to commit to possibly making this a little bit easier for us.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm not chairman of administration, but I was for a fleeting minute, and I loved chairing administration. I mean, I wish Governor Patrick would let me chair administration and Health and Human Services, because that is a function of the admin chair. I have to tell you, Phil, that in the Senate, it is very different than the House, and let me tell you why. We don't have access to the amendments either until they are handed to us by paper as they go down the aisle. Okay, so I want y'all to let that sink in. There's no pop-up on your screen. You are handed that, right? And in the Senate, you don't do a lot of amendments. I can tell you a really funny story. My freshman session, when I went up to Karina, man, I'm like that freshman lawmaker, but I mean, I've served more than most of these senators out here, except for a few Democrats and Jane Helson. That was it. And I was like, I own this place, right? I didn't own that place, because let me tell you, I go, hey, Karina, I've got an amendment for this bill, and where's ledge counsel on the floor? I was kind of looking for them. It was like early in session. She goes, she never looks at me. She goes, they're not on the floor. And I go, okay, well, how do you get an amendment drafted for a bill? And she goes, we don't do that in the Senate. And she kind of went on. It was really funny. I give that as an example. Of course you could amend a bill as a senator, but we do not use the electronic database. Now, I will say that the trial, when things popped up on that screen, there were enough of us senators that said, wow, that's kind of nice. So the Senate is very steep in its tradition of how things are done. So we'll see if there's some changes made about that. But you're right, it's slow. And it's really always been like this. It wasn't a COVID thing. The access on the floor, that was a COVID thing, and it kind of carried over that y'all won't sit on the floor.
Just follow up, I mean, that access to the floor is one thing you can't even come to the clerk's office because of that.
And you can't say it again, Phil?
Back hall is.
Yeah, the back hall, right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, Lauren, she can't ambush me right there. I'm kidding you. We'll work on that. I do think that there's some value to that. I'm not on administration, I'm not the chairman of it, which is a function of the chair of administration, but it's a fair question and something that we should look at. But I enjoy it when you come by the office. All right, any other question? Yes.
I got one. What we've run into in our case here was the power of the state court clerks. There's something like 254 of them. And even Judge Yako commented on it. And I was wondering if you could just kind of explain where their power comes from. These are the local court clerks that seem to have a lot of political power.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for you, Bill. That's why I listen to, that's not something that I ask for very often. I don't get on the judicial side. I make the laws and then judges rule on it a lot of times. And I think that is a very good question. So I'd like to talk to you more about that. I was very curious about that, but it makes sense what you were saying because that's what you do. So I don't have the answer to that. I don't know that it derives by statute or if that's power that they've assembled, been able to.
It's constitution. They're constitutional officers.
They're constitutional officers. I remember her. She testified. So very convincing witness. You really did a good job. I want you to know. You were unreadable.
Well, thank you for letting me look in your face without making faces at me.
Was I making faces?
No, you were absolutely deadpan. I appreciated that.
Yeah, I was very stoic and no, seriously.
No, they're constitutional officers. 254
So does that give them some power then?
They're the same as the DAs. I mean, they have the same level of rank as the district attorney.
Well, we can talk about district attorneys too one day. So,
Clerks of the DAs.
so we need to look at that and consider that. But that makes sense now that you say they're constitutional. Any last question? Well, I want to thank y'all again for having me. I was thrilled to be here. I had a caveat on it because I just didn't know how long the trial would last, and it was touch and go, but it all worked out. And again, I look forward to working with all of you. The input that you give is invaluable, and we really do file bills off of some of the real issues that you bring to us. So I will end it with. God bless each and every one of you, and may God continue to bless the great state of Texas. Thank you.